morning and welcome to Daybreak Live, the program where morning begins with clarity, context, and meaningful conversations. In fact, we have many of that to go around today. I'm Anulu Akpo.
And I am Samson Balogo, and this is Daybreak Live right here on Dominion Television, your channel of choice. We take you through the stories shaping public debate, influencing governance decisions, and redefining the national mood as the day unfolds.
Absolutely. We begin with Daybreak Gist, turning attention to a question that has sparked widespread discussion across political and civic spaces. Where is our president? Former presidential candidate Peter Obi has raised concerns over the prolonged absence of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu from public view, a development that has reignited conversations around leadership, visibility, transparency, and the responsibility of elected leaders to remain visibly engaged during national critical moments.
Well, we'll talk about that shortly. After that, we'll be bringing you a comprehensive weather outlook across major cities in Nigeria, which will help you plan your day better.
And talking of planning, we then turn to newspaper headlines analysis with Ibe Leonard Chidera, who will help us unpack the major stories on today's front pages, examine the angles taken by different newspapers, and explore what these narratives mean for governance and public trust.
All right, our big story today is where we examine the shrinking civic space and the consequences of state responses to dissent. The conversation is titled, When the Streets Go Silent, Protest Crackdowns and the Future of Civic Freedom. Together with our guest this morning, Oluwakemi Ademola Aremukomriketi, will be exploring how protest suppression affects democratic participation, civil liberties, and the future of citizen engagement.
We'll also keep an eye out on pressing development and trending conversations shaping public opinion in our Trend Watch segment.
Well, this is Daybreak Live, setting the tone for informed conversation and critical thinking. Thank you for joining us.
Absolutely. Good morning to you this morning. I mean, so it's such a good time to be alive.
Yeah.
It seems the day is breaking quite late. Everything is still almost dark when it's about 7 o'clock. So that might be a scare for some persons, especially if you are hoping to see the day break before you wake up.
Well, maybe if you are someone like Bisola who checks her window to see if the day has broken or not, maybe you might still be in your bed by now.
Exactly.
And some people, your producer will be calling you, exactly, where are you? But maybe you are still.
You'll be caught in the web of lateness.
Okay, let's talk about Peter Obi this morning. You know, some people have asked this critical question at some point and said, look, is it doing what we call clout chasing? Is it playing what we call real opposition? Or maybe it's just it wants relevance. It just wants to be there on the pages of the newspaper for whatever reason. It just wants to put something out there. These are critical questions, actually, and these are insinuations by some people in some quarters. But the big question is, where's the president? I know. In case you have an idea.
Maybe we should ask Sheyi Tinubu. Perhaps he would know where the president is. But, you know, for starters, let's start from this angle to say, well, this might be a valid question, but sometimes it's not as valid because if you check where's the president, we know where the president is.
Right.
The last information we got on the president, we knew where he was going. And so this is not even a new thing. And I mean, but maybe it's good to ask questions about because the first thing that came to mind was if Peter Obi was the president, would he refuse to travel? And, you know, it's not really about traveling. It's about traveling for the right purposes. So why is the president out of the country? For one, we know one of the legit reasons for any president to leave the country, even at a very pressing time like this, would be on medical grounds. So if you
to seal bilateral relationships with some countries.
So those are the most important things. So if the president has gone on those missions, then, I mean, there's no point, you know, beating a dead horse. There's nothing you want to gain from that. But, you know, let's take it further. This is not the first time we're seeing this. We've seen president travel. I think one of the presidents that have traveled so much was our former president, late president, Muhammadu Buhari. And of course, on medical grounds, he had a lot, quite a number. I was checking the numbers. And it's quite a lot, about 225 at some point. Before some would also say about 300 and so, but the president has not even done that. It's about 196 days out of office and out of the country. I mean, the president. So, but many of those were also acclaimed to be on bilateral relations mission, not just for maybe medical purposes. But the former president Buhari traveled on the grounds of medical maybe emergency or medical attention or medical
At some point,
tourism.
they transferred power to the VP.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So because but we understand if that's very paramount. If your health is as at risk, then you should do something about it. So we can't blame that. And this is not even the first time we are seeing this, even in the entire Africa. Just at the last tenure, I think in Kenya, the president was accused of traveling a lot, and then he came out to say, yeah, I'm traveling to help the country, to secure bilateral relations, to engage with international partners and all of that. But it's okay. But now let's take it from this light angle. It's very important that we see how much do you have to spend traveling for a president? Now, I was checking into all of those processes and how much would be, disseminated for that particular purpose. It's running into millions, maybe billions, if you have to gather all of this together. Right. For a president to travel is not like an average person is traveling. If a president is traveling, there are a lot of finance is to be incurred. There are a lot of financial obligations. You have to consider all of that as well. What is the state, the economical state of Nigeria? What is the financial state of the country currently? And how can we still manage all of this together without breaking the bank of Nigeria? I mean, not the central bank, but I understand that you understand what I'm trying to say. If we have to do that, we have to travel, but we have to travel within the limit that is provided, one, by the Constitution, limit provided by the financial status and the current capacity of the country. We cannot overcharge the country just because the president needs to travel. Right. Meanwhile, we can also say those legit reasons are okay to travel, but also consider the fact that how much do we have in the coffers of government to travel or to make all of this? Because I'm not sure this is even a big deal, except for instances where we see leaders traveling with their kids and people that are not even supposed to. Remember, I think 2 years ago, at the last COP conference, which is climate
with the large entourage, you see.
I mean, it was Nigeria and Kenya happened to be the largest. They are the largest delegations, of course. Yeah. You can imagine. And so some persons that were just celebrities were there to discuss climate matters. Really? Because you asked the question, how do you think these people fit into the category of
exactly
people that
you're going there to discuss?
Exactly. Yeah. So that's even another case. But we can also cut down on the number of the people that might follow the president. I mean, if that would help us, cut some, because of course, when the president is out of the country or is going somewhere, there are entourage that must follow him. We understand that, but can we limit maybe some of those extraneous persons that are not supposed to be on that seat, especially if you have to cut down, costs from government level?
You see, the big question that I asked you earlier about the whereabouts of the president. I think the last press release from the presidency was that the president was leaving Lagos for Europe, and there was no particular place mentioned in Europe. I mean, Europe is a continent, so there should be a country in particular that the president was going to. That was not made clear enough. Probably that was why Peter Obi was asking this very big question. Oh, you said he's going to Europe. Where exactly is he in Europe? And another thing about it is that usually Nigerians they don't get to ask enough questions. And when you see some people who are actually asking some questions, people might actually feel like, are you even asking the right questions? So it's not just about asking questions. It's about being clear about the kind of questions you are asking. You mentioned about what it costs to actually travel outside the country for the president. I mean, it has been provided for in the budget, in the national budget, so automatically the president really doesn't have to worry about that. But some people are plugging into that lacuna, right? I've seen people say, if you want to travel, drop your passport, you pay so amount of money, you are going with so person, you have no business with that person going there. But then because there's a space, they know that when they are traveling, they are usually going with a large number of people, so they just package you and put you on that. I've seen people do it a lot of times, but this is not really a case we should be discussing now. I think the big issue now is Nigerians have gone through this over and over again. We've had situations with former President Goodluck Ebele Jonathan. We've had that with late former President Umaru Musa Yar'Adua. In fact, there was a point that some people said he had passed away, and nobody's even talking about it. Probably it was kept under wraps just because they want to, fast track some things, get some things done before the information is put out there. But the main decision now lies with the presidency to be expressly clear about their whereabouts. Now, after that, we'll talk about the cost. Traveling outside the country, how much does it cost? But then, I'm going back to Peter Obi at this time. You can ask these questions, but not politically. These are questions that an ordinary Nigerian would have asked in the first place, but then they will be clear about what they are saying. this is not the case of the late former head of state. That was Sani Abacha, General Sani Abacha at the time, who never left the country because he was afraid there was going to be a coup that might actually displace him or kick him out of office. So this is not that era. This is a democratic setting where for anything to happen, it will go through the National Assembly, the House of Representatives, the Senate, and then transmission of power will now be done onto the Vice President. So this is not the case now. And it is only in situations where there's a lacuna. If you leave the country, I think it happened when former Senate President Bukola Saraki was Senate President. It was during the regime of President Muhammadu Buhari at the time, who left the country. And then, if not because there was a symbiotic relationship between the two, they probably would have hijacked power and probably pushed it to someone else, because he did not officially hand over to someone, right? And the best thing to do is to transmit power to your Vice President, and if you cannot do that, the Senate President can actually check. In fact, they almost did. Or maybe there was a diplomatic talk around that time that actually made it through, but it was made expressly clear that there's a lacuna in government. And then once you did not, you fail to transfer power to your deputy. I think over time we have seen it happen that President Tinubu will travel and say, "Oh, you are now in charge." It doesn't have to be on the pages of the newspaper or probably on radio or on TV, but as long as it is done on the floor of the House, oh, you are sending a note to the House of Assembly or the Senate. I'll be traveling and I'll be leaving the country for so number of days. And during this period, my Vice President takes over proceedings. So that solves the whole lacuna in government. And I think as long as that is not there, we still have a president, right? He's just not out of the country. He's just out of the country, and then the moment he's not here, there's someone on ground who takes care of whatever it is that is happening. I mean, there are several things that has been pushed to the office of the Vice President, that even if the President is on seat, he still takes charge, right? The only thing is, if there is a need for a signature or consultation, then it might get to the President. But if it is still within the confines of what he can handle, I think he will do it.
And many times it goes in the name of the President, because if you see some of the statements they release, so they release that the federal government
of Nigeria
has said this through
nobody releases
the
such
Vice President
statements unless there's a President.
Absolutely. Yeah. So, but I think one of the things, lacuna, like you've mentioned, is I want us to spotlight the lacuna issue, especially with the Constitution. Why? This is the why. The Nigerian Constitution does not specifically set the specific limits on the number of days a president can stay outside the country. But however, it mandates a formal process for transferring power, like you mentioned, if the absence is for a prolonged period. But one of the things that we are going to see in the Constitution, Section 145, as amended, says 21-day threshold for transmission of power. So that notice should be done 21 days. So if the president is going on vacation or is unable to discharge their duties, they must transmit a written declaration to the National Assembly or, to the National Assembly. If the president fails to do this within 21 days of being away, unable to perform duties, the National Assembly can now pass a resolution to mandate the Vice President to serve as acting president. But I think the president has done
that. Was what happened under Umar Musa Yar'Adua.
Right,
He was out of the country for a prolonged period of time. At the point, purpose. There were contemplation if power is to be transmitted to Goodluck Jonathan at that time. But unfortunately, the president passed away during that time, and there was nothing that could have been done other than to just give power to the next person in line, which was the vice president at the time. But there were a lot of contemplations. People, even on the floor of the House, there were backdoor meetings as regards what should be done. But then that was why, because of the delay, that was why some people had the misconception, or maybe some sort of belief that the president had passed away even before then. Right? Till tomorrow, you still have people with such notion in town. Oh, it was only a matter of time before they just
even the former president. Some believe they died. There's another.
Some even said he was cloned. There were serious insinuations.
But to avoid all of this, if the due process is followed, I think this would have been averted a long time. But also one of the things you mentioned, according to that Constitution, Section 145 was saying that if there is something called permanent incapacity, like the case of Musa Yar'Adua when he was sick, and also the Senate tried to amend this.
You know, this also happened in, I think that was in Taraba State, when former governor Dambaba Sontai had an helicopter crash. You know, he was flown out of the country for treatment. When he came back, they were still waiting if he was going to be okay enough to continue his reign. In fact, at the point they said, oh, he was back as governor, but unfortunately his health was not there to take him through it, and you know, eventually his deputy governor had to take charge. So these things do happen. As long as if you are permanently incapacitated to take care of responsibilities as president, as governor, or even as local government chairman, I mean, the next person in line definitely takes over once that is deliberated on the floor of the House.
Let me get back straight to Peter Obi. Just like you said, some have questioned if it's always cloud chasing, if so to say. But I think one of the things we should ask him is, if you become president, would you not travel? That's one. When he was governor, I think maybe we need to get to his records to see if he ever traveled and for why, you know, for the reason. So I think one of the things we can say quite easily is an open book. It's a no-brainer, you know, to know that we have the acting president or the vice president in the country or the Senate, because we have a process, a due process of succession. Maybe not succession, but a due process of leadership. Like, if the president is not around, there's someone else who can take over.
Right.
If the president don't have to be physically present every day for every matter.
He can't even be everywhere.
Because I was asking, there was a time, maybe if the president, you know, president had to forestall one of his movements. He was supposed to spend about 10 days in one of his travelings, and then he came back just because of the pressing issue. I mean, if there was that kind of pressing issues, I'm not sure the president would want to stay longer outside. So this question, I mean, a lot of people will still not agree with Peter Obi, and maybe fingers are crossed to see if he ever becomes the president, if he would do the same. Because of course, I mean, I don't know if these people forget, but Nigerians don't. If you say something today and then you go back to do the same thing, the questions will be on your table. We put the questions on your table as well. If you ever say this kind of thing, then you should also stand by it. Don't just talk, walk the talk, even when you become president.
Well, above all, the most important thing is Nigerians would want to ask this question once again. Where is President Bola Ahmed Tinubu? I mean, Europe is not a country. Europe is a continent. So make it expressive clear. But people have said, oh, he loves going to France. And if you check the last few years that he's been president, you know, he has been to France a few times.
He's a friend of Macron.
He's a friend of the president of France. So automatically, people would want to assume that he's in France. But the federal government should just make it clearer. Oh, where is President Bola Ahmed?
Let me double the question for you, Samson, quickly. The question, again, I will double for you is, why is the president not ever going to Washington?
Well, I think the presidency will answer that one. Maybe, you see, sometimes when your ideology does not really match with some countries, you might not really want to have a business with them. And, you know, probably what he feels is he has for Nigerians, what he feels is in his manifesto might not really align with what the American government is currently believing in. So he might just really not want to do business with them. You can see that he's done business with other countries, but then why not America? I mean, the only thing that has brought them together is this insecurity crisis. The moment Donald Trump talked about it, okay, let's collaborate and get it done. Well, have you really seen President Bola Ahmed Tinubu and President Donald Trump of the U.S. side by side having a conversation?
Maybe that's why I asked the question, because a lot of people are expecting that someday, somehow, the president needs to visit Washington.
Maybe when they meet outside of America, somewhere, maybe France, maybe Germany, that conversation might happen.
We hope it happens.
We hope it happens. All right, away from there, let's take weather report and take you through what weather looks like across the country this morning. I'll be starting with the ancient metropolitan city of hospitality, Ibadan. What the weather looks like in Ibadan this morning. It is quite cloudy, mostly cloudy in Ibadan this morning at 26 degrees Celsius. And later in the morning, it will rise to 30 degrees Celsius, mostly cloudy. It will be mostly sunny all through afternoon at 36 degrees Celsius at 0%, while it will be clear in the evening at 28 degrees Celsius and partly cloudy overnight at 24 degrees Celsius in Ibadan today.
And from Ibadan, I move to Abeokuta North, that's Ogun State. The weather is currently at 25 degrees Celsius, expected to be mostly cloudy across the regions of Abeokuta North today. Then it rises by 5 degrees Celsius in the morning to 30 degrees Celsius, expected to be mostly cloudy as well. It does not stop. Then it rises much further in the afternoon part of the day, 37 degrees Celsius, that's 7 degrees Celsius upward. And then it's expected to be partly cloudy as well. Then it drops right to 28 degrees Celsius, and the weather will become clear in the evening. And overnight, it will also drop by 3 degrees Celsius to 25 degrees Celsius overnight. and it will become partly cloudy in Abeokuta, North Ogun State today.
Well, a quick trip to Ekiti, southwest Ekiti State this morning. What the weather looks like right there. It is partly cloudy as we speak at 21 degrees Celsius, and later in the morning there will be a sharp rise by 9 degrees Celsius to 28 degrees Celsius, while remaining partly cloudy. It will also remain partly cloudy in the afternoon at 34 degrees Celsius, and it will be clear in the evening and overnight at 24 degrees Celsius and 21 degrees Celsius respectively in Ekiti today.
And what is weather like if you don't mention Lagos, the commercial hub of the country? Of course, Lagos weather feels like 30 degrees Celsius across board today. Then it drops by 1 degree Celsius later in the morning to 29 degrees Celsius. And then it does not remain. It goes much further by 3 degrees Celsius to 31 degrees Celsius. And it's expected to be mostly sunny. And then it drops also in the evening to 28 degrees Celsius, expected to be clear and to become more clearer overnight at 27 degrees Celsius in Lagos State today.
All right, before you travel to Port Harcourt, let me take this one from Osogbo this morning, what the weather looks like in Osun State. And right now, it currently feels like 22 degrees Celsius right there. There will be a sharp rise to 28 degrees Celsius later in the morning while being partly cloudy. It will be partly cloudy in the afternoon at 36 degrees Celsius, while it will be clear in the evening and overnight at 26 degrees Celsius and 22 degrees Celsius, respectively, in Osogbo today.
I'll take a quick drive, like you said, to Port Harcourt, Rivers State today. The weather feels like 22 degrees Celsius across board. Then it rises by 6 degrees Celsius in the morning to 28 degrees Celsius. The weather is expected to be partly cloudy, and it will remain cloudy also in the afternoon at 31 degrees Celsius in Port Harcourt, Rivers State. Then evening it drops to 24 degrees Celsius, such a whooping drop, and so expected to be cloudy as well. Then it drops much further by 2 degrees Celsius overnight to 22 degrees Celsius in Port Harcourt, Rivers State today.
All right, moving on, let's go to the north central this morning. Now will be Ilori, Kwara State. That's the closest. Right now in Ilori, weather is currently fair at 21 degrees Celsius. It will rise to 29 degrees Celsius and partly cloudy later in the morning, while in the afternoon it will rise to 37 degrees Celsius, also partly cloudy right there. It will be clear in the evening at 28 degrees Celsius at 0%, while overnight it will also be clear at 22 degrees Celsius at 2% in Ilori, Kwara State today.
Just 1 degree Celsius upward from Ilorin to Suleja, Niger State, the largest state in Nigeria, because the weather is at 22 degrees Celsius, also expected to be fair across board. Then it rises by 10 degrees Celsius later in the morning to 32 degrees Celsius, expected to be partly cloudy. Then it rises much further by 4 degrees Celsius in the afternoon to 36 degrees Celsius, also expected to be partly cloudy. It remains partly cloudy in the evening at 27 degrees Celsius, and it drops much further by 3 degrees Celsius to 24 degrees Celsius overnight, and the weather is expected to be clear around that time in Suleja, Niger State.
Well, it is almost identical in terms of weather forecast for Abuja and Suleja today. In Abuja, the Federal Capital Territory, it will be around, weather is currently fair at 22 degrees Celsius right now. And later in the morning it will rise to 31 degrees Celsius, partly cloudy. And the difference between here and there is just in the afternoon at 35 degrees Celsius, mostly sunny, while it will be partly cloudy in the evening at 27 degrees Celsius, and overnight it will be clear at 24 degrees Celsius right there in Abuja today.
A very significant change from Abuja to Kano Municipal today, because the weather is at 15 degrees Celsius, expected to be very sunny today. And then it gets more sunny later in the morning to 24 degrees Celsius also. And then afternoon, 31 degrees Celsius, expected to be partly cloudy. Then it's also not very frequent because it drops much further to 22 degrees Celsius, and the weather is expected to be clear in the evening. And overnight, it drops much further to 18 degrees Celsius. The weather also is expected to be clear in Kano Municipal today.
All right, lastly, when it comes to weather reports this morning, we'll go straight to Kaduna North, Kaduna State, and the weather in Kaduna currently feels like 18 degrees Celsius, quite sunny as early as this morning. It will be partly cloudy later in the morning at 26 degrees Celsius, also partly cloudy in the afternoon at 33 degrees Celsius. It will be clear in the evening and overnight at 24 degrees Celsius and 20 degrees Celsius respectively in Kaduna today. I think that's all we can take on weather report this morning. Do well to link up with us on all social media platforms, Facebook, Instagram and TikTok at Dominion Broadcast, and on X, formerly Twitter, at Dominion Cast. You can watch us live on our website at www.dominion.org.ng. You can also leave us a comment on our YouTube and Facebook channels at Dominion Broadcast. Now let's go on a quick break. And when we return, we take the news. We'll be back.
Need a professional space to bring your vision to life? Dominion Television Studios offers state-of-the-art facilities perfect for your next broadcast, commercial, corporate video, or live event. With flexible rental options, cutting-edge equipment, and a supportive team, we provide the perfect environment for high-quality productions. Unleash your creativity. For bookings, email us at marketing@dominion.org.ng. Call us on 0705 506 1061 or 0916 101 1061. Check us out on Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, and TikTok at Dominion Broadcast and on X at Dominion Cast. Book your space today. Dominion Television, your channel of choice.
Daybreak News. My name is Anuluakpo Edo. Former Labour Party presidential candidate in the 2023 general election, Peter Obi, has criticized President Bola Tinubu over his prolonged absence from Nigeria. In a post on his verified X handle, Obi described the president's extended stay outside the country as an act of neglect rather than governance. He argued that leadership requires physical presence, especially during challenging times. The former Anambra State Governor lamented that Tinubu's absence sharply contrasts with practices in developing nations where leaders are expected to step up and remain actively engaged during periods of national difficulty. Moving on, the Southwest Zonal Publicity Secretary of the All Progressives Congress APC, Ayo Afolabi, has observed that the prices of foodstuffs in markets across the country have reduced, noting that the situation is better than what it was a year ago. Afolabi made this known during the chat with Dominion News, where he also pointed out that the cost of fuel is gradually coming down. He attributed the reduction in petroleum prices to the decision of President Bola Tinubu to allow the Dangote refinery access to crude oil in Naira, a move he said has helped stabilize fuel supply and lower prices.
This time last year, you will take a bag of rice for 100,000. Now this time this year, a bag of rice is between 45 and 50,000, which is better. The price of tomato, onions, and whatever you need to make a living in terms of food is cheaper, much cheaper now. The price of petrol is coming down because our President Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu had done what is right by allowing Dangote to take crude in Naira to be able to take care of the refinery, and that has brought the price down from over 1,000 Naira to about 739 Naira now. So life is becoming better.
While commending the federal government for the policy, Afolabi expressed optimism that the economy is improving. And out to your state, where your state governor, Engineer Seyi Makinde, has sworn in the newly appointed secretary to the state government, Professor Musibao Babatunde. Governor Makinde swore in the new SSG after he took the oath of office and allegiance during a special event held at the executive chambers of the governor's office, State Secretariat, Agodi, in Ibadan. Governor Makinde noted that Professor Babatunde played a critical role in drafting his administration's development roadmap, describing him as a key member of the team that laid the foundation for the government's achievements. Speaking with newsmen immediately after the event, the newly appointed SSG, Professor Musibao Babatunde, pledged to ensure efficient and effective service delivery through informed and improved coordination of government activities. Recall that Professor Musibao Babatunde was announced on January 5th as the new secretary to the state government SSG, taking over from Professor Olanike Adeyemo. Meanwhile, Oyo State Governor Engineer Seyi Makinde has called on state workers to remain vigilant and security conscious as they embark on the new year 2026. Governor Makinde, who made the call during the 2026 State Workers Interfaith Prayer held at the Secretariat Ibadan, urged workers to maintain their high level of productivity and commitment to duty. The state head of service, Olubumioni, commended Governor Makinde's worker-friendly policies, which have brought the significant positive changes. The event featured sermons and admonitions from Muslim, Christian, and traditional clerics who offered prayers and guidance to inspire the government and workers in the new year. And all fewer than 95 princes and princesses of the Fuseng-Bua ruling house have declared interest in contesting for the revered Abujale stool of Ijebuland. The announcement was made by the Olori Ebi of the ruling house, Otumba Lateef Oweyemi Jadiara, during the opening of a nomination meeting held at the BC Rodikwe Hall, GRA, Ijebu-Ode. Also in attendance were key leaders of the house, including the Deputy Olori Ebi, Otumba Ajidagba, and the chairman, Chief Fasi Yusuf. Otumba Oweyemi explained that candidates who passed the initial screening will have their names forwarded to the Afobajers, who will select one nominee to be presented to the Ogun State government for the approval of as the next Awujale. He urged anyone with objections to the process to channel their concerns to the government, stressing the commitment of the ruling house to transparency and fairness in the selection process. And now in business, Nigeria's downstream oil sector price war has intensified as petrol retailers cut pump prices below Dangote Refinery's 739 naira per litre benchmark to gain a competitive edge. Aliko Dangote had set the 739 naira price at MRS filling stations nationwide after reducing the refinery's ex-depot price to 699 naira per litre, giving Dangote Petrol a cost advantage since December, while other retailers sold between 850 naira and 840 naira per litre. However, retailers have now undercut Dangote's price, especially in Lagos and surrounding areas. As of Sunday, NIMCO sold petrol at 738 naira per litre and SAO at 735 naira per litre. And in sports, the Confederation of African Football, CAF, has confirmed that it is investigating incidents from at least 2 matches at the ongoing Africa Cup of Nations, warning that disciplinary action may follow. CAF disclosed that it is reviewing the quarter-final clash between Nigeria and Algeria, in which players clashed at full time and the referee was confronted in the tunnel. In a statement, CAF said the matters have been referred to its disciplinary board for investigation, adding that appropriate action will be taken if any individuals are found guilty of misconduct. And that's about it. You can visit our website on www.dominion.org.ng to watch us live and interact with us. You can also follow us across our social media platforms on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, and LinkedIn at Dominion Broadcast, and next at Dominion Cast. And as Daybreak News, I am Anu Oluwapo Edo. Thank you for watching.
Need a professional space to bring your vision to life? Dominion Television Studios offers state-of-the-art facilities perfect for your next broadcast, commercial, corporate video, or live event. With flexible rental options, cutting-edge equipment, and a supportive team, we provide the perfect environment for high-quality productions. Unleash your creativity. For bookings, email us at marketing@dominion.org.ng. Call us on 0705 506 1061 or 0916 101 1061. Check us out on Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, and TikTok at Dominion Broadcast and on X at Dominion Cast. Book your space today. Dominion Television, your channel of choice.
I was putting a count to it and I discovered 95 persons are contesting for the Abuja list. Perhaps I might need to join. But anyway, that's not why we're here. Let's get into the papers. Thank you for staying tuned. This is the newspaper headlines and analysis, where we check into the print, bring out the stories that are making the rounds across the nation, the high points, the low points, and some of the maybe not so midpoint, we would call them. But yes, this morning we check into Nigerian Tribune newspaper, Vanguard newspaper, and some other prints that we can lay our fingers on. Daily Trust is here as well, but so many stories, fresh stories, as you have it on the prints. Of course, I won't do this alone because I have with me Ibe Leonard Richard joining us this morning for the analysis. Good morning to you, Richard.
Good morning, thank you.
All right, so let's get into the papers. For want of time, one of the big stories I saw, this might not concern you, but of course it concerns you because you are also in the southwest region, should we say. But about 95 persons are contesting. They are jostling for the Abuja list still. I'm looking at how lucrative this can be. But of course, we'll also lay tracks on that story. But let's check some other stories still making the rounds on Daily Trust newspaper. Katsina, fresh attacks amid bandit release plan. That is the story from Katsina this morning. Daily Trust newspaper has it boldly written on the front page. If you check the paper this morning, you can see also on the Daily Trust newspaper, if you have one with you, students just resuming back to school, but there seems to be a conversation, a discussion according to the paper this morning, and we're trying to track further what the fresh attacks amid bandit release plan would be in Katsina State, because they have recorded fresh attacks on civilians even as the government prepares to initiate, the release of many bandits held in custody as part of community-driven peace agreement. That's also the big story. You see right on the front page of Daily Trust newspaper. Also looking maybe a bit up, you see defection rumor as well. Police deploy security at Kano Government House. That is also something to talk about, because it seems whenever there's a defection plan or impeachment plan, you see security beef up in certain places. But we'll also get into that conversation. Generator fumes kill 6 family members in Rivers State. This is not the first time, but a shocking one that is happening again in the country, Nigeria. Maybe there needs to be a bit of education and reorientation for our people. Now, moving on from that as well, RBA budget 8.75 billion naira for projects in MD and Power Minister's state. That is the story. Also talking business, talking economy this morning. Tambua welcomes foreign intervention for credible polls. That is 2027. That's coming. The election come 2027 is also something on the table of discourse this morning. FCTA to spend 73% of 2026 budget on Maitama. That's also something to check out this month. Buratai says soldiers' deployment for internal security is weakening police. Is that true? How true could that be? But we'll check into all of that at sea. Let's take the Punch newspaper before we start the analysis proper. The Punch newspaper has the story. Fuel imports spending crashes 54% to $6.7 billion. That is a big story. Bill falls from 14 billion naira, $14 billion, I meant to say, in 2023 to $11 billion in 2024 and $6.7 billion in 2025. According to experts, they're pushing for a refining boom. That is also talking about the 2-year refining milestone in the country, Nigeria. So much to talk about that. And yes, I will also lay tabs on the other story of the APC on the top corner of the Punch newspaper this morning. APC targets 9 million registered members, opposition keys. That is a big one. Also coming about the presidential election come 2027. APC is targeting 9 million registered members, and opposition are kicking against that. PDP APC fight for control of Osun local government secretariats. That is also something to check out this morning. Federal government votes 19 billion naira for VP's aircrafts, engine and others. I mean, we're talking about that conversation this morning, myself and something, of how much it takes to transport a president or a vice president from the country to another place. I mean, even within the country, it's a lot of money running into millions. And we can see now from the paper this morning that 19 billion naira has been, voted for the vice president's aircraft, engine and others. We'll also see what becomes of this. Fubara says no notice as 2 lawmakers also pulled out. That's the impeachment storm. So many things to go around, of course. Talking River State, somewhere very important to the economy in Nigeria. Maybe that's why many eyes are on River State. Or perhaps it's because of the godfatherism between Nyesom Wike and his successor, that's Mlalai Fubara. We'll check into all of that this morning. So, Leonard, let's get into the conversation, shall we, this morning? And I'm actually looking for where to start the conversation from, but I think it's a fresh and a good story to start with, talking Fubara and talking Wike. Fubara says no notice as 2 lawmakers pulled out, and that's about the impeachment storm. We've seen this story unfolding, maybe not quite nicely for Fubara. Maybe for some persons it's a good one, but for him it's the bad story. But Fubara is saying that he is yet to see any notice as 2 lawmakers are also pulling out. It seems like there were quite a number of persons working towards the impeachment process to be done with in River State. But it seems maybe some are backing out to say, let's let the sleeping dog lie. Let it just stay there. But let me get your thought, your comprehensive thought on the elections. Did I say elections? On the impeachment process against Fubara and the lawmakers in River State.
All right, and good morning once again. Just as I think we had something similar last week, and then, can we even talk about politics in Nigeria without mentioning Wike and River State because of the part of there? Now, and I keep saying this, that it will be difficult for Wike to have an upper hand over a sitting governor. Yeah, I understand that, he was very instrumental to the governor getting there, but then the governor being on seat now and then deflecting to APC, one would ask, what can Wike do for APC that a sitting governor cannot do? And now, seeing some House members pulling out of that impeachment process or plan is expected, because you know how power works in Nigeria. It's not like other countries where, opposing parties can, stand competitively. But in Nigeria here, what matters is you have to be part of the ruling party. And these lawmakers withdrawing now means there are high chances of them as well joining the APC. That's how I'm seeing it personally. And if they're joining the APC, what I keep saying, what I said, stands, because what can Wike do for APC or the president that a sitting governor cannot do? And then APC,
sorry to quote you. I want to be sure you are not underplaying Wike's strength and maybe sovereignty in River State.
Well, underplay in what regard even?
Because you said you're asking a question. Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, because he was that powerful because he was on seats. He was that powerful in 2023 because he was on seat. But
he's still a minister, though.
Yeah, he's a minister and he's operating from Abuja. Yeah, and operating from Abuja and compared to a governor on seat, there is no way. Now, the governor already has made a change of the Minister of Justice in his state. And you see what that is, he has that power to reposition people in his favor. So Wike is more like playing from outside of the field, while Fubara is more in the pitch. So he has, he can make his changes within the pitch, and he understands what is happening better. Wike is a spectator as it stands now. Regardless, I'm not trying to underestimate his, game in 2023, to the point that the APC winning in a PDP state. But as I'm telling you now, Fubara being in APC, there is no way Wike wants to do it to let PDP take up Rivers State again. Now, remember what happened in Imo State. Imo State was formerly, I think, the governor there, I think he came from not PDP, not APC. But then along the line, he had to switch to APC. And the governor I'm talking about is Owele Rochas Okorocha. Now, during the election, Rochas was not very good, especially his second tenure. And then he switched over to APC. And now, that was how APC got hold of Imo State. Now, after the election, the 2019 election, now, PDP won again because it's a PDP state. Most of those states that are PDP. Now, APC came fourth. Now, when they went to court, the current governor of Imo State came from fourth position. And that is to show you how obsessed APC is with retaining power. And I don't think it's possible for APC to let Rivers State go again. I don't know if you understand. You see what you see.
Let me try to get a clarification on some of the things you've expressed.
Right.
I mean, some would say, you said you don't think Wike has, like it's playing at the outside of the pitch.
Yes.
It's not on the pitch.
Of course.
But how can someone who is outside of the pitch have the backing of lawmakers across the state? A spectator does not have that.
Yes, of course. Now, remember that coming into 2023, Rivers State formerly is a PDP state, and Wike was manipulating everybody there as the governor, and he was instrumental to all those people getting to power. And now all of them, both the governor and the lawmakers, we are all under PDP formally. But now that the governor has moved away, they are no longer, all of them are no longer in let me, I don't want to say the same pitch anymore, but I used pitch in terms of governance, governing the state. But now, if it comes to party, since the governor has left, they are no longer in the same, game as such. And now, the governor is the major force in that state. Whether we like it or not, Wike was instrumental to bringing them in, or bringing them on, rather. Now, what they do there is, comes from willpower, what they will. And as it stands, they are on seat. And the governor, Wike was instrumental because he was the governor then. He was the major force then. But as it stands now, the force has shifted to Fubara. And that is how it's going to be.
Is that what you think? Because some would still disagree with this position of yours. Because whether or not you are directly involved, yes, does not make so much sense as to being indirectly involved, but controlling every forces to your advantage. So some would say that, Wike is not on the pitch of play in Rivers State, but directly, but it's indirectly influencing what happens in Rivers State. But let me get your final thought on this. What do you think is going to become of all of this issue? Who wins Fubara? Who wins Wike? Who wins the president? Who exactly is going to be the winner from a projection of things?
No, all right. You will notice something lately that Fubara, when he switched to APC, he kept saying something that we are not going to preach the gospel of the president's renewed hope. Now, and then on the other hand, Wike is saying that there is no PDP, there is no APC, that the whole state is operating under renewed hope agenda. Now, everybody is trying to get the favor of the president. Now, if everybody is fighting to get the favor of the president, support of the president, now, Fubara, that is under APC already, is directly, and how will I put it, directly and, indirectly, whatever way you want to put it, but he's directly and more and closer to the president, being in the same party. And of course, already you're seeing APC members, the secretary, and other stakeholders already
wading into the issue, yes.
Wading into the issue, and then trying to clear Wike to stay away from the affairs of the party. So how will he do it? So because I can't imagine, based on how politics operates in Nigeria, I can't imagine APC, how strong they are across Nigeria and even Africa.
So in one word, you're standing on the fence. You don't know who will win, but you are keeping your tabs open.
I keep saying it that Fubara has an upper hand and he's going to win.
All right. So let's move on quickly from there now. There's been this issue that's also making the rounds across the country, Nigeria. Peter Obi came out to say that the president is traveling too much. And just on the Punch newspaper, we saw another story of federal government voting 19 billion naira for the vice president's aircraft and engine and others. 19 billion naira just for the aircraft's engine and maybe some other, maintenance part of the engine. So let's talk about the cost of governance here. The cost of governance, talking about the cost of the government, maybe of government people traveling across the nations of the world, and of course now the private jet and all of this. What do you make of all this? Do you think the APC is doing well in terms of spending the taxpayers' money in the country, or do you think they're overspending, or do you think Obi's claims of where the president is also valid owing to the fact that APC has not been able to say this is particularly where the president is? What do you make of all of this?
First of all, cost of governance. PWB keeps saying that it is overbloated in Nigeria, and as a matter of fact, it is. It is. We keep having figures on paper that the senator should receive ₦1 million at the end of the month, but then at the end of the year, at the end of the day, we see them getting 30-something million and other, even saying that is lesser. But then, regarding the president, I think today is what? Today should be 12th day of the
today's 13th
or 13th even, and nobody is sure if the president is in Aso Rock. Like, no news has that. Like, what does that mean? It shows that these people are mostly, the president, maybe mostly occupied by, self-concern and taking care of themselves first. I mean, any business that you've not resumed as a 10th of January the following year, and you vacated about on the 23rd of December, and this is 10th, you've not resumed yet. Do you think you're taking that serious? Does it show any atom of seriousness that you're taking this business seriously? And then regarding the 19 billion, I don't know where that jet flies to. I don't really know. But maybe it flies to heaven and comes back. Maybe that's where they're getting their ideas that they're using to govern this nation. I don't know.
Perhaps you don't want a substandard aircraft for your vice president for security, health security. I mean, life security issues. But let's not really belabor that issue. Now let's talk about resident doctors. This concerns everybody in Nigeria. Resident doctors are now about to review their strike suspension in 2 weeks. There's been that back and forth between them and the federal government. They gave a particular memorandum of understanding between them to say this is what we agreed upon. Answer to this in 14 days. The 14 days was not met. They said they were going on the strike, and it's boomeranging again as we have it now. Resident doctors are about to review their strike suspension in 2 weeks. What do you make of this in all of this? What do you think is going to, or what should the president do better, or the presidency or the ruling power APC led government of Tinubu should do better when it comes to resident doctors in the country?
Well, it's very sad how we, take our health sector not seriously. It's very sad, and this has necessitated most of our, medical practitioners traveling out, and everyone goes where they are, valued, where you are appreciated, and this strike started about 24th of November, and since then throughout December everybody kept quiet. Nothing is happening. It's as if okay, doctors, you can sleep, no problem. When the people in power, the elites, when we have health issues, we can always get our way outside of the country and then sort ourselves. But then the common person should die, no problem. That is what it means. I mean, this strike has, lasted for over 6 weeks, a month plus. And this is almost 2 months even. And this is when they are beginning to, I mean, it's too poor. It's terribly bad. And, and this strike is not something that is, I don't know, it's not a private thing. It's not a secret thing. The world is saying this. How do you keep shouting you want to, renew the economy, you want to do this, you want to reposition the economy. How will an investor, let me say a foreign investor, come into a country where his health, nothing is assured around his health? I mean, health is wealth. Will you be building an economy without putting health into consideration?
So you think this present government is not doing enough?
Or they are doing enough based on their statistics.
They keep saying does it reflect what is obtainable?
Exactly, that is the problem. You see, National Bureau of Statistics, I don't know if they have turned into an arm of the government or into an arm of APC. They keep giving us figures that we don't see that having bearing in reality of what is happening. And this same Tinubu was somebody that told us some time ago, now statistics we go chop, but then we are eating fake statistics from him and his government and his government every day.
So you think MBS is bloated? Like their statistics,
they are giving
figures are bloated?
The figures, I don't know where they're getting them from anyway.
You don't trust them?
There is no trust on that, because you told us that inflation has come from 32% to 14% as of last year. What reduced? What changed? What changed? You told us food inflation came from so. Headline inflation 32 to 14. How?
But let's
changed?
Let's see it from this angle. Maybe you are looking at a drastic change. People are expecting an abrupt change to just happen. Maybe it's just in process, because if you take one step after the other, then we can get to the end where this will become a reality to an average person.
All right. 14% is more than half of 34%. So if you are telling us that headline inflation has reduced from 32 to 14%, that's half. Bro, we should be able to get a significant change in things.
Okay, so
you should be able to go to the market. You should be able to step out of here and then see something change outside.
Okay, Lina, let's say this now. I'm not speaking for the government.
Of course.
But I can tell you for a fact, perhaps I should ask you. You've bought rice recently.
Yeah.
You've bought rice maybe a year ago.
Of course.
Is it the same price?
Oh, all right. I like how you brought in rice, but let me bring in spaghetti as well, because it's a food we eat in Nigeria. Let me bring in beans as well. Noodles as well. Now, rice reduced from about 100,000 to about 50-something thousand as at last December, and that is about maybe 48% reduction, right? And then, but Indomie, let me not call it
noodles.
Noodles. How did that reduce from what percent to what? Like, is it only rice we're talking about? And now, don't forget that the reduction of rice was because of the opening of the borders. The food, what's that called again? That scheme of that necessitated the opening of borders to bring in more rice. The production we are having, even the scheme that even allowed the opening of border. Let me say that. So the opening of border even made local producers, farmers. Now, farmers were complaining bitterly last year around September that they are in huge losses now because of this opening of border. And now people are flagging this thing that rice has reduced, and these are APC flag. I don't know, spray singers. They keep shouting this thing, but then it's the only rice you're eating in this country.
But again, I mean, some would argue again now to say it wasn't just rice. I use rice just as an instance. For example, there are many other food items that a lot of persons have, assented to that the prices over time has gone down.
Yeah, you use rice, and that's why I use noodles.
Talk about fuel, petrol, PMS as well. There's been a change. Do you think this administration is not working?
Well, the fuel reduction is not an administrative.
Okay. So who's in charge? Who's responsible for that? Who do you think is responsible?
Now, Dangote reduced his. I think that was on. I think second week of December. He reduced his fuel sales by about 150 or 100 something there. So how is that connected to the government? No way.
The government gave Dangote an opportunity to ride on that. They gave a platform for him to also do business, a competitive business for him.
they gave a platform.
Because it was this, I mean, what the former administration could have also done the same. They brought this administration, I'm not speaking for them, but one of the things they did well in terms of the fuel, or should we say petrol or crude oil, is that they made Dangote buy in Naira. So it was dealing and transacting in Naira. So it helped a lot. So what do you say to that kind of policy that is helping competitive markets to survive?
Dangote is buying in Naira, but do you know that Dangote imported about 5.something billion worth of crude in April last year, and I think September again. So he didn't buy that in Naira. So Dangote buying in Naira is just part of a whole. It's part of a whole, and it should rather help and strengthen the economy, the Naira, and then expand our foreign reserve as well.
But you think, in your opinion, that this is not something to clap for this administration?
Well, it's something to clap maybe 2 times. I think that's okay. Because we should expect much from this. Like you requested for this job, and you should. And let me say this once again. Let me say this. This administration, there's something about them. They appear to know the right decisions to take, but their problem is to what degree do they implement all their beautiful ideas? You talk about floating the Naira. Then you did that, you floated the Naira, and at the same time removed the subsidy. I mean, this is double tragedy for the people. Now, why not remove the subsidy and then hold on? When things stabilize little bit, when people adjust a little bit, you can make others. So that will help them. Then you're just, punching these people. You think you should be clapping.
I mean, for want of time, we might need to end this conversation. But thank you very much for coming, Leonard Richard, this morning.
Thank you very much.
You've made your point. Of course, now we switch focus to the big story. And on the big story, you want to know what's there. I mean, you need to stay tuned to us. I mean, after this break, we'll be back for the big story with Samson Balogun. Stay with us.
Need a professional space to bring your vision to life? Dominion Television Studios offers state-of-the-art facilities perfect for your next broadcast, commercial, corporate video, or live event. With flexible rental options, cutting-edge equipment, and a supportive team, we provide the perfect environment for high-quality productions. Unleash your creativity. For bookings, email us at marketing@dominion.org.ng. Call us on 0705 506 1061 or 0916 101 1061. Check us out on Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, and TikTok at Dominion Broadcast, and on X at Dominion Cast. Book your space today. Dominion Television, your channel of choice.
and welcome to The Big Story, the conversation that goes beyond the headlines to examine the forces shaping our world and our future. Today we turn the attention to streets, once vibrant with chants, placards, and civic courage, now increasingly met with barricades, batons, arrests, and silence. Our focus today is titled When the Street Goes Silent, Protest Crackdowns and the Future of Civic Freedom. From America to the Middle East, and right here in Nigeria, protests have emerged as the language of the unheard. Yet, the response of government has raised urgent questions. Are states protecting public order or shrinking civic space? Where is the line between security and suppression? Samson Balogun is my name, and joining us shortly is Comrade Oluwakemi Ademola Aremu, KT, a civic voice, an activist, as we interrogate what these crackdowns mean for democracy, dissent, and future of people power. Across the world, protests have become a defining feature of modern governance. Expressions of frustration over inequality, police brutality, economic hardship, electoral credibility, and political repression. However, a troubling pattern has emerged. As citizens take to the street, governments increasingly respond with force rather than dialogue. In the United States, widely regarded as a bastion of free speech, recent protests, particularly around police violence, racial injustice, and foreign policy, have been met with heavy security deployments, riot police, curfews, mass arrest, and the use of crowd control measures have raised concerns among civil liberties groups. While authorities argue that the need to prevent chaos and protect property, critics insist that aggressive policing has chilled free expression and blurred the distinction between lawful protest and criminal conduct. Moving to the Middle East, particularly Iran and Iraq, protests have often been rooted in deeper systemic issues: economic collapse, corruption, and youth unemployment, and sometimes long-standing political repression. In Iran, demonstrations sparked by social and political grievances have been met with swift crackdowns, internet shutdowns, and mass detentions. Iraq has witnessed similar unrest, with protesters demanding accountability and better governance. The situation becomes even more complex with external interest as the United States signals concern and possible intervention under the banner of human rights and regional stability. A move that critics argue sometimes escalates tension rather than resolve them. And back home in Nigeria, the EndSARS protests remain a painful and defining moment. What began as a peaceful youth-led movement against police brutality quickly spread nationwide and gained global attention. Protesters demanded dignity, accountability, and reform. The government's response, including the use of force, arrest, and denial narratives, not only ended the protest, but left deep scars, according to some people in some quarters, which was denied by the government. Trust between citizens and the state was badly damaged. Businesses were destroyed, lives were lost, and a generation became more skeptical of authority. To this day, many Nigerians say justice was never fully served, and the core issue that fueled the protest remained unresolved. Taken together, these examples raise a present question. If protests are silenced without solutions, what happens to democracy itself? When streets go quiet, is it peace or fear? Thank you for joining us in the studio this morning. I have with me Oluwakemi Ademola Aremu, Comrade KT. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you so much. It's so good to be here this morning. And I love this particular topic. It's what I've lived for.
There was this particular question that I asked earlier, and it's about when the streets go silent. Now, is it peace or fear?
When the street goes silent, it can be incubation. Yes, because the struggle is really between who dictates, who is serving, who suffers. So when the citizenry, that is why we have different kinds of activists. You have the activist that is a citizen of a nation and has enough understanding to know that things are not going right. There's inequality. Look at all the things you've listed. Things about poor economy, unemployment. So when you are the employed, you will not understand the cry of the unemployed. When you, I think 2 days back now, I was listening to a man and I felt so sorry. He went to the office, they had owed him salary for 4 months, and then they said the job was gone. And within those 4 months, while he was trying to survive, he had expended all his savings. Now he has to pay a landlord because it's not his home. He has to pay child school fees, and the wife did not understand. And I felt, wow, this is terrible. No man should leave if there's no system. It's always, sometimes it's backsliding from democracy. In a democracy, everybody has a voice. So it's in backsliding from a democracy. That's why people protest. Look, something is going wrong. And let me tell you, activists, most of the time, activate the group. So when you see a silence on the street, it means the citizenry are not conscious or they are being lured by promises of a better future. Another type of activist is the reformer that says, look, the way we're doing this, for example, Nigeria, no maintenance culture. So you see a lot of syrup making those kind of, can we look at this, can we look at this? So we have different groups of activists in the system. Then you now have the rebels. The rebels are people that think we want to change the whole system. Now, changing the whole system,
you have to be radical about it.
No. When they use the word radical, they are really naming a dog to be able to shoot it. They like shooting us, huh? They're naming the dog to shoot it. So you're saying they're radical, and I tell them they don't know chemistry. Yes, when you talk about the radical, that is that particular group that comes in and help your product come to be what you want it to be. But when you say they are radical, you're trying to say they are rebellious, okay? So, but really, the reformer is somebody that thinks, no, we can't go on this way. And we've had histories of reformers.
So governments would argue that protest, if unchecked, can degenerate and become a full-blown crisis. And we have seen that happen before.
If the government, when you mention dispute, there are processes for resolving dispute. Every protest begins with a whisper. If somebody's a Rosa Parks standing up and saying, no, I'm not giving my seat, okay? It begins with somebody saying, I look through the holy books, please, these are 99 ways in which you're wrong. It is also a Cyrus listening to a spirit that told him, go deliver my people, go set them free. So now, where the cry comes from, where the whisper comes from, where the inspiration comes from, the new history book you read, some story you listen to, look at Fela Nicola Pokuti. The mother told him, you can't be trying to sing like a white man, huh? It's not going to work for you. Go listen to civil liberation. The suffragists. So people don't just wake up and start fighting. Is that I have a friend who was a nurse, and when she noticed from a brief that somebody had died because of negligence, she left that practice and became a lawyer. So she wanted to help people speak. She wanted to help them find their voice.
Protest is a right. It's a civic right.
It is in a civilized society. It's a form of information. It is feedback. It is government knowing that something is happening. Because really when you're really busy paddling the boat, you're looking ahead.
Communicate, do you agree that every right comes with responsibilities?
Definitely. You see, when you mention the word protest, there are different kinds of protest. You can have civic disobedience. So that is what you see most of the time. You saw what Martin Luther King did, So you can have civil disobedience. You can also have the active one that is on the street. Now, by the time it hits the street, somebody had not listened in the dark. And then the process of protest, you must give a notification. That's why you hear people say, we're giving the government this notification. Industrial resolution is different. The citizens saying, no, we are suffering. There's no light, and you're not listening to us.
In a country like Nigeria, the US, even Iraq and Iran, when heavy security guards are deployed during protest, is that not a sign of the government trying to prevent chaos?
No, it's this way. Chaos. Look, when we say chaos, that means everything is scattered. Entropy. You move through.
Is it not better to prevent rather than react?
Which government is preventing? The nations you have mentioned now, they have different forms of governance. But everybody pretend you're going to be. Look, when you're born into strength, you will never understand what a man that is born into pain goes through. There are generational poverty ridden people. There are people that have situational poverty is the one you hear, the story of grass to grace. That's situational poverty. You had already inherited some things. You had a language for English. I keep saying it, that those of us that can speak English, we are really in a privileged group in Nigeria. You went to school, you are a privileged person. But you will never understand the pain of that child whose great-grandfather died because of a snake bite, because there was no health care available. Okay? You will never understand the pain of having something in you that you cannot voice because you don't have the language with which you speak to authority. You can never understand the pain of that woman that was married off at 9 or 6 years old, and she has to deal with a man that is 73 years old. You know what that means? You will never understand the life of people that have no choices. In fact, sometimes when I look at people, I go on the street. I'm a street person, okay? So sometimes when I'm under the bridge, in fact, there was somebody that once spoke to me and said, Casey, be careful when you go under the bridge. I said, hey, what's the problem? These people are not dangerous to me. They say, hey, no, because they have people. I say, you're a very wicked person. These people under the bridge, they know some people want to come at night and steal their body parts. Okay? They know that some people are looking for somebody's kidney to steal. They know that there's somebody coming to look for somebody to use for rituals. Won't they protect themselves? So when the military is bearing the arm, is protecting the state. When the licensed citizen is holding a gun, is protecting his beautiful estate, isn't it? But when the poor man, who is more vulnerable, is trying to say something to power, then that one is not okay. Do you know what happened? There was a time even in Ibadan here, or your state, a governor was referring to another governor, say, the road was going to destroy his house, but because he's my friend, I did not allow it. Meaning what? The powerful people, they have ways of settling their scores. They marry into one another. They attend one another. Do you think when they go for parties, it's because they don't have things to do? They are networking. So when you are the poor man, and the tax is coming on your head, and somebody is saying you don't deserve to have food, whereas they feed on the state, what do you do? So when people come to, and then there are people of conscience, if you look at the history of activism, you have somebody like Karl Marx. He was in the privileged group. So he understood what the masses were missing. Look at French Revolution. People were crying because of bread, and bread was thrown at them. They now, no, we're not going to take this. So when you have a situation where people are lured by promises, that's why politicians come with promises. Don't worry, tomorrow will be better. We're putting something in place. But their children are not schooling in Nigeria.
Let's take a look at what is going on across the world, in Iraq, Iran, and some other countries that are currently undergoing what we call unrest, civil unrest. At this time, if it continues this way, and then there is an external interference, just like the U.S. promised they were going to interfere, will it worsen the situation or put it to an end?
No, power will change hands. And that's why, look, if you look at Iran, Iraq, if you're a female in Iraq, you may not like life. You may not like life. You're told your face is the reason a man cannot control himself. You cannot speak in public. So if you're a writer, for example, and I'm creative and there's something bubbling, I always tell people that, look, when you're a creative person, you're not externally driven. It's internal. You're sleeping, you have a dream, something is talking to you, you want to say something, and somebody says you can't put your mouth because you're female. And somebody says you must always say yes to whatever anybody is bringing your way. Is that life? You are existing, you're not living. So when you now have a peek into the world and say, so there are some countries where people don't have to marry at 6 or 9. There are countries where they don't have to cut my body part and say, so that I will not be very, very active. Because, as a reproductive humanity, people have sex. There are certain pleasures that come with food, certain pleasures that come with sex. And somebody says, you're a female, if you enjoy it too much and I have 4 of you, I can't satisfy all of you. You may be tempted to go out, so I'll cut off your clitoris. Are you getting it? Somebody just decides that. So sometimes it is the reformer that says female genital mutilation is wrong. You are cutting off body parts and you are causing harm. You are making scars that makes it difficult for these human beings to have babies in the future and can risk their life. Please, let's stop this practice. Mary Slessor came to a place and said, twins are not devilish. Killing twins is evil. So, oh, did she have it easy? Those are the reformers. So when you come into new knowledge, in some climes, kings, you know, there was a time in Yoruba they say, "Aye familete in tuto." Kings were really spitting into people's mouths. Was that not so? And then you'll be there. Men make other men slaves of other men. Somebody say, it doesn't have to be that way. For example, in Nigeria, why should I go to school and not have a job? Why will the federal government of Nigeria not create a local industry in 774 local governments?
Is it possible for the government to create jobs for everyone?
It is possible. Don't buy into the lie. The money they are going to waste telling us they are good. You know, these campaigns are terrible things. Telling us they are good. If you are good, we know you're good. If you're not good, you're not good. And that is where the energy should come from the system. So when you are deceiving people, look at your... You know, there was a time when senators in Nigeria were wearing only white. Because they thought people couldn't tell the difference. Let's get this right. We are under siege. Siege of civilian dictatorship. Where some people connive with their friends and they begin to rule over you. On that, sometimes they claim theocracy like in Iran. Now, in Iraq, look at Iran. Iran is different. If you look at their history, you see the Persians know what they want. At a time, somebody hijacked their system and they said, let's go back to what we had. Okay? There was a time in Yoruba land where everybody was employed. Okay? Where everybody knew their place, where they had identity.
Don't you think population had a lot to do with that?
No, it's a disrupted governance. And that's why somebody's saying, let's go back to what we had. Because it's not that we've not tested it before. We've won it before, we've known it, but we lost it, we forgot it, we backslided. Let's get back to the right thing. So it is better to organize people than to let them be protesting.
Do you think governments are justified to resist foreign-backed narratives just to destabilize existing governments?
See, if the government is of the people, serving the people, and inclusive, bringing everybody in, will there be a problem? It's when you have a group of people who are nepotistic, who are despotic, coming together to oppress other people. Then somebody in that lot, like a Frederick Douglass, will hate slavery. And I really think something is wrong if you don't hate slavery. When you pay a man a wage that will not help him be the man of his home, what are you doing to him? When the man is still not very strong, because there's nobody to discuss with, he will implode, take drugs, take alcohol, and kill himself. So I tell people, don't implode, explode. At least you get to do something out there.
Now, bringing it back home, let's talk about the NSAS protest and some other protests across the country in the
protest.
history. Now, it started peacefully.
Yes.
Before it was hijacked. So, at what time were you expecting the government to intervene to bring it to an end, or to intervene decisively?
No. Okay, let's put it this way. When the NSAS protest came, it was focused. End SARS. Because of what we've observed. Look, if you're a criminal, you know you're a criminal. But when people just pick you at random, say, no, this is not right. Okay, what did you do? I was just going. They took my laptop because the policeman has never seen laptop before and thinks it's only Yahoo boys that can have laptop. Okay? Then they got them, said, no, this is terrible. They're picking us up. They're shooting some. They're killing some. So what do we do? Then they came together. Now, it had a focus. But unfortunately, the so-called celebrities turned it to jamboree. And it's so terrible how very serious issues in Nigeria become jamboree. When the jamboree starts, then the trouble comes. Then the government, instead of having trained officers that know how to talk to people, organize them, condone off the area, which is the job of the police to protect the citizenry, what did they do? They switched off the lights at night. And those children really believed if you had the Nigerian flag in your hands, then what will happen? Now, when the government even said they were going to be compensating, you remember, the victims, they had not even agreed that they victimized people. What kind of narrative is that?
Now, let's go back to what could have happened if it was prevented earlier. All right. According to total losses nationwide on NSAS process, organized private sector losses, including looted goods, vandalized assets, destroyed infrastructure, and business interruptions, were estimated at over 5 trillion, according to Nigerian Employers Consultative Association, NECA. All right. The Lagos State alone The Lagos State Chamber of Commerce and Industry, LCCI, estimated that the Nigerian economy lost about 700 billion naira in just first 12 days of the protest, reflecting the severe disruption to commerce and transport. And according to other estimates, some government and financial analysts put the total cost of damage to infrastructure, businesses, vehicles, and public assets in excess of 1 trillion naira. When rebuilding the replacement and cost induced. So there are some other areas where that wasn't all. So look at the destruction. And you expect the government not to intervene decisively when such is noticed.
At the beginning, there was no destruction. If somebody had addressed them earlier, would there be destruction?
That's why I asked, is prevention not better than reaction?
They are not preventing. If they are preventing, they will govern well. They're not preventing anything. That's why I said, why can't we have jobs? Look at this. First Lady Oluremi Tinubu went to Ogun State and said she collaborated with the Ogun State governor and was giving 50 million. I said, no, please. 50 million to 1,000 people is really 50,000. Now tell me, what business in Nigeria do you start with 50,000? So it's better than the 10,000 that the former vice president of Buhari was distributing in the marketplace. People that will drink wine of 650 million are telling women have children, no? Everybody that understands business, so there must be working capital. What business are you going to do with 50,000 when you owe so much? So they know what to do, but they are not doing it because their convenience, going around the world and buying diamond, which they don't even recognize anyway. Somebody once showed me pictures. Look at it. This first, I said, this one's me. I'm a chemist. That thing can be plastic. I mean, what are you talking about? I said, who said real diamond to you? That kind of stuff. So when you are not knowledgeable, anybody can sell any dope to you, okay? So what I'm saying is simple. If you govern well, there'll be no protest. Have you seen a woman that left a good man? You've seen one. She's enjoying herself. She's happy. She'll be protecting the man. Have you seen people beating a good child?
So some claimed the aftermath of the NSAS protest allowed the government to initiate radical police reforms.
Wait, that happened. But look at this, 700 billion. I'm saying, so the 3 weeks, have they ever made 700 billion? If somebody say I made a loss, that's why estimate. We're estimating. Sometimes it's a psychological estimate.
Aside from that, private sectors also listed their losses. Right?
The private sector that is
even insurance companies. The insurance firms are reported around 9 billion naira in claims paid for damages from vandalism, looting, and fire damage. A figure that could rise as more claims are submitted.
They should pay the claims. The reason they insured the place was for the claims. All the claims that did not happen every year, what happened to them? So let's get this right. Prevention is better than cure means put a system in place that will take care of disputes, resolve disputes before it becomes a problem. By the time, look, I'm a comrade. Do you know that when we go out, people don't follow us on time? They hardly do.
Do you think Nigerians blow things out of proportion?
No, I don't think so. In fact, I think Nigerians are too laid back.
They lay too much emphasis on issues that really should not matter.
They grew up as slaves. What do you think they'll do? Do you understand what I'm saying? That's why Karl Marx had to speak. In fact, there was a time, I think a colleague, I was a lecturer, came to me and said, why do you always fight for the poor? I was looking at him. He said, have you ever been poor? I said, that is why we fight for the poor. Because they don't know what is the cause of their poverty. And that is why I'm saying now, it is nothing big for the federal government of Nigeria, all this infrastructure, create business. Is agrarian. Let me just start from the farm to the table process. You don't know that means you are employing everybody across board? Is it that means you are employing everybody across board? Is it difficult? Or your state is busy with roads? What will it take them to create 33 industries in local government? What will it take them? Because when men are employed, they'll be busy about the job and let it be something they can source locally. Don't let it be something that is coming from somewhere else.
What can the government do to make protest the last resort?
Well, it's simple. When people complain, listen to them. Create a feedback system. Anybody that is managing a business knows you must listen to the
Create a
grapevine.
platform to address redress.
And let it be seen that you're doing something about it. You cannot promise us there will be lights and we've not seen lights and now you're thinking you're going to be governor of my state. How? Think about it. You cannot say that you are a Peter Obi. You cannot manage Labour Party. You want to manage Nigeria. Look, when there's no truth, we die. We cannot be assuming you'll be good when you get there. How? Look, people that are generous are already generous, even in primary school.
How can the government manage and balance firmness and fairness when it comes to addressing future protests?
Oyo State government has done it. You notice that anytime people are about to protest, the governor will go and meet them, even come out and address them.
Some say it was aiding and abetting.
No. Look, let me tell you, I'm a public speaker and I teach speech. Now, one of the most difficult speech you ever find yourself giving is as a politician. Because you're looking at a crowd of people that can be for against your policy. So under strong pressure, but if you don't want that pressure to arise in the first place, you begin to put things in place that will make protest almost impossible. When there is good, you protest against an idea, you protest against a system, you protest the pain you're feeling. So if already there's school present, people will dance for you. The pensioners of Oyo State are dancing for the governor. Because before they ask, he's taking steps. When they bring things to his table, he says yes. But some pensioners are dying in other states. If you pay people's salary as at when due, no matter how little, there's a level of stability in their life experience. Will they be protesting? They will not protest. If in a home there's fidelity, will the woman be complaining? She'll cook for you. So let's create system. That's why we talk about peace building. There are processes of peace building.
Would you support stricter protest regulations if it saves lives and properties?
The people protest, are they not human beings? Why would you want to restrict protest? You cannot suppress protest. Look, that's why I said...
You just made claims about providing an enabling environment, putting some things in place.
Protest.
Even if you do that, human beings are insatiable.
No. See, human beings grow. But they cannot protest to you if you have no responsibility over them. Now the government has given you a New Year present. We're going to tax reform. If they were sincere, I'm not saying it's a bad thing, no, okay? If they were sincere, what they should have done, national orientation by June last year
should have started.
Would start addressing the people, pay for jingles on all the radio stations and TV stations, and say this are the taxes, and they will show us. This article 1 says this article 2 says this means if this is this. They will explain it to you in your local language. They will explain it to children in primary school. That government needs taxes to build the nation. And when you are 18 and positively engaged, you will be able to do it. It means that this is your business volume. This is the money, the profit from your business. Share it with the government so that public facilities can reach everybody. It's not difficult to explain to somebody. But when somebody has another private agenda, we just rule over them. People, you think everybody will be stupid all the time? You can fool some people sometime. You cannot fool the people all the time. And we have to emancipate ourselves from mental slavery. When you think a man is better than you because he's wearing double layered of clothes. Yes. When you know that the king is not protecting your land, he's selling off the minerals in the land. When he sells everything, what will happen to the next generation? The world talks about sustainable living. Sustainable living means it can go round. And you know the terrible thing about Abuja? You have more, let's say about even America, is that you have more homes than you have the homeless people. So what does that one mean? Why should our soldiers go to war and somebody that is a criminal against the land has the information before them? So we will not stop protesting. We will not stop struggling. It is the force of evil versus good.
So what role should the citizens play
they should get informed.
Helping the government to prevent future occurrences?
Government? The government is governing them. So what people should do is simple. Get yourself educated. I'll tell you what happened once. I was on a protest. So when I returned to pick my kids from school, the headmaster said, "Hey, madam, you know what the problem is?" I said, "What's the problem?" Because I was really like in my normal garb now. They say, "They are treating us like this because we don't know our rights. I was like, eh? I looked at this tall man and he's heading a home. He does not know his right. He does not know his... I said, then find out. Do you know that guy found out his right and changed his job? He went back to school and changed his life. When you are blaming the third party, they are not giving... Even right now, even citizens in Nigeria, if you are a civil servant, it simply means civilized servant. You can speak English. If what you're using to dress to work is more than 20% of your salary, see, there are economic analysis that you can do. And all your money ends in 2 weeks after you are paid. And you have to find yourself taking bribes. You have lost your heaven. Is it not better to protest against the person that is creating such system and be paid duly?
Correct, Katie, we have to go. Thank you for joining us on the show this morning. That's been a wonderful session with you. Now, as we wrap up today's big story, one truth stands out. Clearly, protests do not emerge in a vacuum, and crackdowns do not erase grievances. They only postpone them. From America's 10th Street to the volatile grounds of Iran and Iraq, and in Nigeria's NSAS experience, the lesson is consistent. When governments choose force over dialogue, civic freedom pays the price. The silence that follows is often not consent, but suppression. Our thanks to Comrade Oluwakemi Ademola Remo, KT, for joining us on the show this morning, for lending a voice and insights to this critical conversation. The future of civic freedom depends not just on those in power, but on citizens who continue to ask questions, demand accountability, and insist that their voices matter. I am Samson Balogo, and this has been The Big Story. Until next time, remember, a society where the streets are too afraid to speak is one already in danger. Up next is Trend Watch. Let's go on a quick break.
Need a professional space to bring your vision to life? Dominion Television Studios offers state-of-the-art facilities perfect for your next broadcast, commercial, corporate video, or live event. With flexible rental options, cutting-edge equipment, and a supportive team, we provide the perfect environment for high-quality productions. Unleash your creativity. For bookings, email us at marketing@dominion.org.ng. Call us on 0705 506 1061 or 0916 101 1061. Check us out on Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, and TikTok at Dominion Broadcast and on X at DominionCast. Book your space today. Dominion Television, your channel of choice.
All right, welcome back from that short break. The show is still Daybreak Live right here on Dominion Television, your channel of choice. Do well to link up with us on all socials, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, at Dominion Broadcast, and on X, formerly Twitter, at Dominion Cast. You can watch us live on our website at www.dominion.org.ng, dominion.org.ng. Do well to leave us a comment on YouTube and Facebook at Dominion Broadcast, and watch us live on those channels too. All right, it is time for Trend Watch this morning, and Anuluapo Idowu is back with me in the studio.
And of course, something we have to talk about, maybe you are not a student anymore, of course, but it's something that must have happened at one point in time, way back in school. Court remand 52 students of Ambrose Ali University for protesting against kidnapping and insecurity in Ekpoma. We know Ambrose Ali University. I used to have a friend there, but that's not even important. What's important is, according to the story, according to accounts by some of the affected students, those arrested were not apprehended at the protest ground, but were picked up from where they resided. So no fewer than 52 students of the school, Ambrose Ali University, AAU, Ekpoma, have been remanded in correctional facility following a midnight crackdown by operatives of the Nigerian Police Force on hostels across Ekpoma in Esan West local government area of Edo State. That seems to be like the topic. I remember way back in school at the University of Ibadan, at the time, there was more like a reality that policemen cannot enter into the school premises to pick people. If they would do that, they would do that in collaboration with, the school security, architecture, which of course we also know them to be Abefele in the University of Ibadan, for example. So they have to work with them, but they cannot come armed and then start picking up people from their hostels because, maybe the school management would not even allow. So they frown out those kind of things. But what has happened from maybe when I was in school to now, when they can now pick people from their hostels in the night? I mean, these are not criminals. They protested. The school management has a way of, curtailing protests from becoming a nuisance in the school premises. They know how to go about this. They know what to say and how to. When does it become the responsibility of police officers outside the school campus and not the school management curtailing this kind of activities? Protest is a right. I mean, especially if they did not kill anybody or destroy properties. It was just a protest within the school environment and maybe even across the state to express their grievance and the way their displeasure to the insecurity situation currently bedeviling their state and the state of things. So I think this is not even out of place for them to do, because if you also record, the current president of this country was involved in many protests, from what we've seen, what we've heard, and what we've read. Some of our fathers can attest to it that some of the great leaders we've had in the country were one time...
They were still there in 2012, for subsidy removal.
So it's not even... you can't say it's out of place for anybody to protest. That's what I'm saying. But again, why should it be the responsibility of police picking them up just because they are protesting? They are students. They are not criminals.
Well, I think every school has a modus operandi. How do they operate? What's their mode of operation, right? Well, I can tell for a fact you went to the University of Ibadan, and as University of Ibadan, unless Abefele points you out, nobody comes into the school to arrest you. But that's not the case with other schools. Okay, so Ekpoma is not Ibadan, and Ambrose Ali University is not the University of Ibadan. So there are two different things and two different schools. But one thing is clear, right? There were claims and insinuations that some shops were looted and properties were vandalized. Even the palace of the king was actually vandalized. So there were reasons to arrest. Now, the only thing is, when the sting operation was conducted, what intel was available to the police? Are the people who were arrested truly the culprits who perpetrated the evil act? These are the things we need to, because I don't think we have the security infrastructure in Nigeria to be able to pinpoint exactly who the criminal is, right? So I have been able to, I'm privy to that detail that, they just do random arrest. Oh, there's someone here. So whoever they meet with that person automatically becomes a criminal as at the time when he or she is arrested. So another thing that I'm afraid of for these students is, even if some of them are criminals and some of them are not, or they must have one way or the other been there when the crisis occurred, and one way or the other, some people will do things that you are there and there's nothing you can do about it. You cannot stop them, but it does not mean it does not mean that you couldn't stop them, but it does not mean that you participated. So it's just that you were there as an eyewitness. It's a crisis, and unfortunately, it doesn't seem like the truth can set you free in Nigeria as it stands, because of how the security apparatus is set up and how the justice system is against someone who really does not have help in one way or the other. So I think it's a problem. Can we truly investigate this and see if all of them were involved. Don't just arrest people randomly and say, oh, you were there, you participated, and for that reason you are going to jail. I mean, the first thing for them to have done is to investigate. Yes, you have arrested. Thorough investigation before you now send them to
correctional facilities.
I mean, for me, I think it's a dent. And most importantly, you realize that even if you are wrongly accused in Nigeria and you come back, and so a court somewhere says, oh, you are to be awarded a certain amount of money, that's where you will be, if that's what you are expecting. So I don't think we have the security infrastructure to get things done the right way yet in this country. But we can begin to use the native intelligence, human, well, there are human errors here and there, but we can be able to judge things better than we used to, so that you stop putting unnecessary people in jail. And if you check Nigerian jails, of course, recently there are stories about people who've been there for 15 years and eventually a lawyer went there and then got them bailed. Not because some people are even in jail and their parents don't even know where they are. They are still praying in church saying, oh, we are looking for so-so person. Pictures are being pasted here and there. Oh, we are looking, this person is missing. And the person is not missing. They were wrongly arrested or picked up one way or the other. I was looking at a story of a guy who went to buy plantain, just plantain. And then while he was coming back, a raid was being conducted and he was picked up. This guy spent 15 years. All because of nothing, just because of plantain. So I think we should decongest our prisons. Thorough investigation should be made. You don't just arrest people and dump them there. Sometimes the IPO is not even in that command anymore. He has traveled. He has been transferred to somewhere else. And that case will stop because no one is taking it up. So this, and I'm more sure, especially with this story, I think is a story that really needs to be escalated until the right people are, apprehended and the wrong people that have been arrested are released.
Let me also lay claims on what I've been trying to say. What happened to the school management when the protest was ongoing? What did they do? Because I know for one, maybe this is not peculiar to
it could be that they had prior knowledge that the raid was going to happen.
But they could have, there are ways to do this. I don't know.
See, no matter how big you are as an institution, you cannot protect criminals if they have been adjudged to be ones.
Yes, if they have been adjudged, but they have not been adjudged. These are students. They are protesting. What they are protesting for, is it valid? Maybe yes.
But
maybe
properties were vandalized.
But
someone has to pay for that.
Before it boomeranged into that, I'm saying the school management could have passed a circular. I know, I don't know for many universities, but I know certain universities have a way of communicating to students. There's a hearsay that there's going to be a protest. Please, any student that still wants to remain the student of this school should not engage in such. There are ways to go about this, and not just using a blanket and letting the police just take over to use a blanket approach.
The school had no intel about what was going on.
I differ.
Or maybe there was miscommunication one way or the other. Maybe there was a gap in communication. But then, it has happened. The only thing that is left for the school to do now is to make sure they see this to the end. And whoever has been arrested unjustly should be released so they can go home to their families or maybe go back to school. But the trauma will remain there, right? You were not part of any criminal acts and someone picks you up and puts you in jail for doing absolutely nothing. Someone should pay for that, right? Whoever has made that arrest and kept someone in jail for long for not doing anything should pay dearly, even with their jobs. Okay, that would be the convenient point to leave it this morning. We say thank you for joining us on this show. Don't forget to link up with us on all socials, Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok at Dominion Broadcast. And then do well to link up with us again tomorrow. Same station, same host, and definitely same show. Samson Balogun is my name. Keep being good out there and keep being safe. Bye for now.
And I'm Anulu Akpoido. Thank you for joining us. See you again next time, and bye for now.